Hello everyone, welcome to the TriStar Gym channel. This episode is the pre-fight analysis before the Rafael dos Anjos fight versus Tony Ferguson. I'm really looking forward to this fight. Thank you for all of you who sent in your comments and questions. In this video, like always, I will be answering your most popular comments and questions. Before we get started on this video, I want to announce the winner of the Michael Bisping Dan Henderson Mystic Reebok Challenge. The person who most accurately predicted the outcome of that fight is Bilal Said from YouTube. Okay, above a Redditor, a YouTuber. He predicted Bisping via majority decision, 48-47, 48-47, 48-48. Now, I know it was a unanimous decision. Okay, it was in Bisping's hometown. I picked the fight for Bisping as well. I thought the fight was very close. I wouldn't have argued for a draw. I thought his score reflected more closely exactly what actually happened as opposed to what the judges ranked it. So one judge giving it, one judge giving it a draw. He thought this was going to be a razor close fight, and it turns out he was right. Okay, so I'm going to award him the Mystic Reebok Combat Kit. Bilal Sayed, I already sent you a message. You're going to be receiving a really nice giant bag of Reebok equipment and the gear and not gear, excuse me, clothing, shorts, shoes, all that nice stuff. So we're going to be needing your measurements and mailing address and stuff. I already sent you an email. Congratulations, Bilal Sayed from YouTube, on winning the Mystic Reebok Dan Henderson pre-fight Mystic Reebok challenge. Okay, good job. Don't forget, guys, we are also doing a Mystic Reebok challenge for Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. Okay, so go on my YouTube channel, find that episode where I'm asking you guys to send in your Mystic Reebok predictions on Eddie Alvarez versus Conor McGregor. We are giving away Quest Nutrition bars. We're giving away a Reebok fight kit again. Okay, so you're gonna get a Reebok bag full of Reebok goods, and also we're giving away a Tim Tam massager from timtam.tech. TimTam.tech makes the greatest massagers in the world. If you guys have any aches or pains, tight muscles whatsoever, this thing is incredible. Okay, so it's not your regular handheld massager. This thing's at another level. Okay, I have one. I use it all the time. My pros use it all the time. It is the most powerful machine if you want to keep your back healthy, your legs healthy, your legs loose, and your body mobile and loose. It's a foam roller times 1,000. Okay, so I highly recommend it. I hope you guys pick one up and enjoy it. Now, without further ado, the first question for RDA versus Tony Ferguson, a fight I am extremely excited about, a fight that I think is flying under the radar a little too much. It is going to be an epic battle, and I really, really look forward to seeing this fight. So I want to answer your questions. First question is from Wova Grova Flame. That's a weird name. Mr. Wova wants to know, did RDA take the appropriate time off after his recent loss, in your opinion? He wasn't completely knocked out, but he took substantial damage and seemed to be fairly quick. It seems to be a fairly quick turnaround due to the nature of the loss. Yeah, he took some bad shots, but he wasn't knocked out cold. And I think it was a good stoppage, but he was dazed. He was out of the fight, but it wasn't so bad. I've seen guys come back from way worse, so I'm not too worried. If he was knocked out cold, and for him to take only a small time off and then get back to sparring and all this crazy stuff, I think is a really bad idea. But again, he wasn't out cold. He was dazed. Good stoppage. He wasn't protecting himself. He was taking too many shots. But credit to him, he stayed on his feet. A lot of guys would have hit the canvas. And I think it was his grit, his toughness. He wasn't out. So I don't think it's too bad of a turnaround. I think he'll be okay. Next one here is from Elo Dare. RDA seems to be one of the most well-rounded fighters in the division, while Tony seems to somehow always get it done, regardless of the style of his opponent. What do you think is the biggest weapon Tony possesses that will give RDA trouble? Well, you're right. Tony always gets it done. If you look at his record, he's an unbelievably successful finisher. He gets KOs, TKOs, and submissions. We all know he's got a deadly Darce choke. Now, he's 6 feet tall, fights at 155. That's a rarity. And when you have long arms, the Darce choke, the Anaconda choke, those are very, very powerful holds. Tall guys, slick jiu-jitsu guys that are tall always have incredible arm chokes. You know, their Darces and Anacondas are always super dangerous, and their triangle chokes. You know, when you fight a tall guy, you're on the ground. If he's on the bottom, expect the guy to do a triangle choke. You know, tall guys love the triangle choke, and of course they love the Darce. Tony Ferguson's Darce could put anybody to sleep. He slaps it on in a blink of an eye. He's truly innovative the way he does it as well, and I find him to be quite effective with it, to say the least. But I think his biggest weapon against RDA is his recklessness, you know, because RDA is very well calculated. They're both high pressure fighters, and RDA is very bread and butter, you know. He's very orthodox. His striking style is orthodox. His passing, his jiu-jitsu is orthodox. It's pass, control, submit. Whereas Tony Ferguson is the complete polar opposite. He's the complete polar opposite than RDA. He's reckless. He's not calculated. His mechanics are not as clean. He's a wild child, and when he's on the ground, it's submission only. Like, he just dives on submissions. He's not really control savvy. You know, we'll see him do a lot of crazy stuff. Like when he fought Danny Castillo, he took a lot of unnecessary risks, and it kind of gave up position here and there. He's a very sporadic, very wild guy, and I think it reflects his personality. You know, I know he trains at 10th Planet with Eddie Bravo, and Eddie Bravo was a very calculated human being. You know, he's a very smart, calculated guy, but Tony Ferguson's a wild child. You know, his personality, I think, shines in his fighting. I saw a video of him hitting the bag, and for some reason he was wearing sunglasses. He was hitting this bag, and the bag was tearing, and he just kept mauling the bag and kind of tearing it apart and just kind of dumping the inside of the bag all over the gym. You know, messing up the gym, and for some reason he was wearing shades. And I think this just kind of tells us where Tony Ferguson gets this style. You know, that's just who he is. He's just a wild child. He's out of control when he fights, and it's successful. I'm not criticizing him. I'm telling you, this is something that he brings to the table. You're asking me, what does he bring to the table that's his biggest weapon? And I think it's that. It's his unpredictability. The fact that he's a little bit crazy. The fact that nobody knows what he's going to do. I mean, when he fought Barboza, I was really impressed that he shot those rolls, you know, and I like to do those rolls. Actually, Ryan Hall is the innovator of those rolls. He does it differently than Imanari. Imanari has, people think it's the Imanari roll. It's actually a little bit different. I'm sure it's inspired from Imanari, but Ryan Hall uses that roll very successfully. And you know, when Tony Ferguson was rolling into the legs of Barboza, I was kind of surprised. I was shocked that he was doing it so effectively. I didn't think he had that in his game, and he did so many other things that were surprising in that fight. And for those of you who didn't see the Barboza Tony Ferguson fight, it's an amazing fight. It's a really action-packed fight, and Tony Ferguson always fights like that. I've been watching a lot of his fights preparing for this pre-fight analysis video, and you see all his fights. He throws caution to the wind, and he's a blitzkrieg. He just totally blitzes out, and with punches, kicks, knees, and they're thrown at random. There seems to be no method to the madness. And if you duck your head underneath his chest, because he's so tall, he's 6 feet tall, don't forget. So it's very common that when you're fighting a six foot tall guy, you're going to find your head in his chest. But if your head is anywhere near his chest level, he dives right into a Darce. That's the only thing I would say is kind of predictable. I know that if a guy's fighting him, if you see that guy's head anywhere near the underarm chest line of Tony Ferguson, like this area here, if they're grappling, clinching, he's going to jump on that Darce. He's going to try to snap you down, and he's going to jump on that Darce. That's the only thing I think that's consistent. Everything else is just complete madness. It's complete madness. So it's very hard to predict a guy like that, so you never know what to expect. So I think that's the biggest weapon he brings to the fight against RDA. He's just completely nuts, you know, and it's in a good way. I mean that as a compliment. He's just completely unpredictable. Nobody knows what he's going to do. I don't think Tony Ferguson's coaches know what Tony Ferguson's going to do, and I don't think Tony himself knows what he's going to do. He's just going to go in there and just beat Tony, and Tony's unpredictable. That's his strength. There's an edit here also. It says, also going to take the opportunity of this rising comment to remind you, you promised a video on advantages taller fighters have in MMA grappling, and I'm still waiting for it. Yes, sir, I will do a video on taller fighters. I did a video on how to fight a taller fighter. Now everybody's asking me to do a video of how to fight a shorter fighter. I will do that, and I promise you guys I'll get that to you in the near future. Thank you for your comment. This one's from John Bugara, excuse me. That means blow this up, guys. It's really small. I got to blow this up here. Okay, now that's a lot better. Tony seems to have 1,000 tricky setups, while RDA is more of a bread and butter kind of guy. but both are pressure fighters. Who do you see being the aggressor, or will they both just meet in the middle? That's a very good question. You're right. You took the words right out of my mouth. RDA is very orthodox. Tony is the complete opposite. But they're both, the one thing they have in common is they're both pressure fighters. Now, they have two different kinds of pressures. RDA is a very calculated, precise pressure. It's a calculated, precise pressure. He moves forward 1 inch at a time. Tony Ferguson is a frantic pressure. It's a frantic blitzkrieg pressure. Now, one of those, in my opinion, is superior. The calculated pressure of Dos Anjos is better. Why? Because when you go frantic and you go in a straight line and you're bull rushing your opponent, you can walk into shots. And when you guys saw him fight against Barboza, go back and watch that first round. He walked into a lot of shots. I mean, Tony Ferguson ate a lot of shots. He ate a big left hook. He ate a spinning back kick to the body. He ate a spinning wheel kick to the chin. It kind of grazed him. He saw it coming. He has good eyes. Tony Ferguson's got great eyes. He kind of moved with the kick, but it's still connected to a certain degree, and he just took it. What shocked me about that fight was, by the way, he also took a very hard liver shot. Barboza caught him with a hard liver shot. Now, what surprised me is he kept taking those shots, and it just wouldn't register. There was nothing registering upstairs. I mean, he was still moving forward. Nothing was registering upstairs. He took the shot, kept coming forward like they didn't happen. So that tells me, one, he has incredible cardio. Incredible. Two, he has no fear. Tony Ferguson has no fear. And three, he could take a shot. They didn't slow him down one bit. Now, in Tony's mind, I think he believes those shots didn't land. Like when he fought Venata, for instance, he got tagged clean. He got dropped, bounced right back up, and just stayed on Venata. Just stayed on him. Kept going forward. And then after the fight, he was like, no, I slipped. I really believe he was being honest. I don't think he slipped. He got knocked down. It was a clean shot. He got knocked down. He was getting caught clean. He was getting, Venata has a better technique than him. Venata has a better skill. But Tony has more assets. Okay, so that's why he won the fight. Tony has more assets. Venata has more skill. And in Tony's mind, those shots were not landing. There's no reason for him to go down. It was a slip, so he popped back up. The way his mind computes stuff is very different. And it's an advantage. I'm not trying to take a stab at him here. I'm telling you it's an advantage. In his mind, he wins all the exchanges. In his mind, his opponents always miss. And because of that belief of his, he'd keep walking forward. Now, there's pros and cons to being like that. And I've met fighters like this. I have met fighters like this where you'll beat the piss out of them, and then they'll come back and tell you they had a great round. It was not a great round. I'm improving a lot. And it was a horrible round. I've seen guys with a disconnect to what's going on. And there are pros and cons to this disconnect. Now, one is if the storm that hit you wasn't so bad and you can physically survive it, it's a good thing. It's a good thing to have that belief because you didn't. Some people might get hit on the chin and go down, but really they could have got up. It's just in their mind they're thinking, look, I got hit on the chin. Here's that feeling in my legs, that my legs are gone. Oh, that should be the end of the fight. They have a preconceived notion of what getting caught on the chin and that wobbly feeling should end up in. They think, oh, the fight should be over. It's just one of those days. Whereas some people completely destroy all that. And in their mind, it's impossible that somebody could beat them. So this buzzing feeling in my legs and this dizziness that I'm experiencing, it's all due to some sort of other mitigating factor. It had nothing to do with my opponent hitting me because that's not the way the movie plays in my head. I win this fight, so that strong belief can be useful. But it's not useful when, physics slaps you in the face. If he walks into hard shots that his body physically cannot take, he's going to be met with reality in a way that he's never seen. So he'll lose. He'll lose. I think RDA's method is superior because it's a calculated pressure. It's a calculated pressure. There's a certain level of belief. It's not so radical that he loses touch with reality. Because I think the way that Tony Ferguson fights can get him in a lot of trouble. If that wheel kick, for instance, landed really flush by Barboza, it just kind of grazed him. It could have broke his jaw. Now, I don't care how strong your belief is. Your jaw is broken, and you can no longer walk into any shots. You're gonna pass out. Your jaw's you're gonna pass out from the pain. if I hit you on the jaw again, you're going to go down, you're going to go unconscious. So that disconnect, it seems to have been working so far for Tony Ferguson. It has. I just think it's gonna have an expiry date soon. He's gonna walk into one too many shots, and that chin. He's got a great chin. He's got great heart. I seen. How many times have we seen a guy with a great chin get dropped? He's never been hurt really bad. He's never been knocked out so much. And then when he gets dropped once or twice in a row, all of a sudden everybody's knocking him out. Like for instance, Chuck Liddell had such a phenomenal chin. All of a sudden he got knocked out, then another knockout, then another. It just, that chin all of a sudden goes from 100 to 0. That powerful iron jaw chin. That's why I don't believe in taking shots. Even as crazy as you are, there's only a certain amount of mileage on a chin, and you should be very careful with your chin. So both aggressors will meet in the middle. I think Dos Anjos' pressure is a smarter pressure. He's superior defensively than Tony Ferguson. Okay, next one here. This one is from Cause the Manatee. Excuse me. Ferguson has a tendency to do a weird somersault in fights, and I can't recall a time when anyone's made him pay for it. But do you think a fighter as skilled as Rafael Dos Anjos can exploit that? Yeah, he does do a lot of somersaults, particularly when people try to take his back. He somersaults forward and he rolls into knee bars. Josh Thompson did a beautiful double leg, scored a clean double, and he somersaulted out of it. Danny Castillo tried to take his back. He somersaulted into a knee bar. And against Barboza, he was shooting those Ryan Hall rolls into the leg and trying to tie him up into a leg lock. He's very good at rolling. He's excellent at rolling. Now, when he did it against Danny Castillo, one time it did backfire. And Danny just kind of like dropped down on him and tried to control him and ended up passing the guard. If I remember correctly, I can't remember exactly what happened with that, but I think Danny did get on top of him in the later round and kind of got control. So I can see RDA doing that, definitely, because RDA is a very traditional grappler. He's very strong positionally. Now, it's not as flashy and as memorable as maybe Tony Ferguson's highlight reel, but it's incredibly effective, especially for winning rounds. And this is a 5-round fight, so I love the Tony Ferguson style of aggressive submissions. I love it. I think it's entertaining. I think it's super effective. But we can't forget about the other end of the spectrum. What RDA does is also extremely effective. He might not be as aggressive with the submissions, but his jiu-jitsu is super tight. It's very strong. I have no worries for him. Can he exploit the roll? Absolutely. I think he's going to see those rolls coming. Don't forget, in jiu-jitsu, we see a lot of inverted guard. So it might surprise some, but a guy like Rafael Dos Anjos, he not only knows how to pass the guard, he knows how to pass the inverted guard. Now, I wrestle a lot of times with jiu-jitsu guys, and when I wrestle with MMA guys, the MMA guys don't understand inverted guard. Like, you invert the guard on them, and they're kind of clumsy, and they kind of fall down all over the place. But a IBJJF guy or a really thoroughly well-educated jiu-jitsu guy, you invert the guard, it's not a big deal. We see that all the time, okay? Inverted guard is a very common thing. Dos Anjos has seen inverted guard on a regular basis for the last decade at least. So I don't think he'll be so shocked. Tuba Dude 07. Ferguson has been at Big Bear for his camp. Will this help him in Mexico City, even though Mexico City is a higher altitude? I think so. I'm not an expert in high altitude. I'll be honest with you. I've read some research, I've read some studies, and there's so much conflicting data that I haven't really fallen on a position on altitude. I know a lot of Olympians use it, so I've trained at altitude myself, and I felt a major difference. Training at altitude, I wasn't as comfortable as training at sea level. That's for sure. It is definitely something. I remember the first time I trained in Albuquerque at Greg Jackson's. I was sparring. I completely forgot I was at altitude. I was no preconditioned notion. I had no idea how many levels, how many feet were in the air. I had no idea. I totally forgot that it's elevation. And I was training, and by the third round, I almost threw up. My cardio was fine. I was just kickboxing, doing MMA, sparring. And at the third round, I just felt all of a sudden I'm sick. So I looked for a garbage can. I almost threw up. I didn't throw up. And they're like, what's wrong? I'm like, I have no idea. For some reason, I got totally nauseous. They're like, oh, yeah, it's the altitude. You got to give yourself a few days. And I totally forgot about that. They're like, that's altitude sickness. Don't worry about it. They're like, it's normal. All the new guys, when they come into Albuquerque, they have that. So, I mean, it's definitely a real thing. It's definitely something that you need to train for. What's the effect of training at Big Bear versus being actually in Mexico City? I have no idea. I know that RDA uses that machine. He runs on the treadmill with that machine that's supposed to simulate high altitude. Again, I have no research. I have no studies to report to you guys. So if any of you guys know anything about high altitude training, or you have any interesting research on that, please do mention it in the comments. That's something that does really interest me, and I've heard about the sleep high, train low, and I've looked at a few sources, but again, no hard evidence. So if you guys have that, please do share. Put it in the comment section. I'd love to look it over. This one is from SDP Commander. How would you compare the striking of Ferguson and RDA? Do you see RDA's pressure overwhelming Ferguson, or is Ferguson's creative and unorthodox style going to throw off a more traditional Muay Thai fighter like RDA? This is a really good question, and I think it's going to come down to who controls the striking. Now, I went to a length about how Tony Ferguson is just completely crazy. But one thing that you could say is predictable is he just keeps coming forward. So, I mean, when you fight a guy like that, you got to let him walk into shots. If you let him walk into shots, that forward pressure now is working against it. Because you know how it is, right? If you walk into a shot, you get that double impact, okay? There's actually no such thing as double impact, but what does happen is that the force from my punch, if you're walking forward, gets transferred faster at a quicker rate into your chin than would be if you were standing still. So walking towards me actually increases my power of my punch. So they don't refer to it, physicists don't refer to it as double impact, but it is a factor. Okay, so it's kind of like the popular notion is double impact. So yes, it's true that if you walk into a shot, it's worse. So I think that plays into RDA's favor, because RDA is a controlled pressure, so he's less likely to walk into a shot. Now, we've seen Tony Ferguson be very successful because he walks into shots and just keeps coming like nothing, like it was nothing. Like if you look at his Danny Castillo fight, he was just walking Danny Castillo down. Now, and when he fought Tony Ferguson, the interesting thing about the Tony Ferguson fight was I had Tony Ferguson losing round 1. First of all, he did an illegal blow, which he should have lost a point. I can't remember if he did lose a point, but he hit Barboza on the ground. He upkicked him to the face. I mean, it was completely illegal blow. I think he should have lost a point, even if they didn't take it from him. I can't remember if they took it from him, but it was one of those shots that it's just not by mistake. And he walked into a lot of shots, and I think he was on his way to losing that fight, to be honest with you. Except that Barboza totally gassed out. In my opinion, he just got tired. Barboza in round 2 started getting hit, but he was wobbly, and he shot a double leg. Now, when was the last time you've seen Barboza shoot a double leg? I can't really remember, to be honest with you. Maybe he shot a couple in his career, but it seemed like a desperate double leg to me. It seemed like a double leg that was trying to buy him time. If I can get him down to the ground, I can catch my breath. It seemed like one of those double legs. And Tony Ferguson just sprawled him out at 100 miles an hour. He hadn't slowed down the least bit. And then he just slapped on that Darce that he always does, and he finished Barboza. For those of you who didn't see that fight, excuse me, that's a great fight. You should watch that fight. Barboza, I think I think RDA is as precise as Barboza. I think he's as fierce as Barboza. I think he's as technical, except he has a very good gas tank. He's not going to gas out in the first 2 rounds. He's going to take it to the later rounds. And I don't remember the last time I've seen RDA get tired. Will he get tired with this frantic pace? Who knows? It could be. Maybe Tony will push RDA to a new level that we've never seen before, and RDA will start to fade. It would surprise me, though. When I look at RDA, I see somebody who's supremely conditioned. I see somebody, at the level of conditioning that a world champion should be. And I think Tony Ferguson's recklessness is going to play against him a little bit more, and he'll get tagged a little bit more. When he fought Venata, he was getting tagged and tagged and tagged, and he got in his own shots. I don't want to say it was a one-sided fight, but I think RDA is going to be superior defensively. I think they're both going to have a really good offense, but RDA's defense is superior. Sometimes Tony gets hit with shots that just shouldn't be, but he burns his opponents out with that frantic pressure, that craziness. I've seen Tony Ferguson hit pads. I've seen him kick and punch. His mechanics are not clean. The way he punches, he exposes himself. So he's not perfectly technical, clean. But I'll tell you one thing. I'm sure, and I've never been hit by him. I've never sparred with him. I know actually 1 or 2 guys who've sparred with him. But even without their input, I can tell you, I guarantee you he hits hard. Obviously, he's got KOs. He's got a lot of KOs. Half his wins come by KOs. But I can tell those guys, those guys who win fights but are not mechanically sound usually have some very athletic gifts. And his athletic gifts is incredible cardio. He has an incredible iron jaw, and he hits hard. So that makes him very dangerous. So will his RDA's pressure overwhelm Ferguson? Remains to be seen. Will Ferguson's pressure overwhelm RDA? That's the big question, I think. That's the big question. I'm really looking forward to see who wins this fight. I think RDA is also going to have that double leg. I think he's going to be able to take double leg Ferguson. We've seen Ferguson get double legged. But then again, there's that Darce. There's that Darce. And RDA knows 1,001 ways to get out of the Darce. But he's fighting a guy with an incredible Darce. So Darces happen, even when you know how to get out of them. So it's such an interesting fight. And I'll tell you guys, all the fights that I break down are either by popular demand or fights I really, really want to see. And fights are very hard to predict, of course. We all know that. But the fights that I'm picking are usually 50-50 fights. Like, for instance, if we look at the Nate Diaz-Conor McGregor fight, that fight could have really honestly got either way. Like, if Nate Diaz got the nod, I wouldn't have cried. I wouldn't have complained. It was so close. I think McGregor won by a hair. I honestly think I picked McGregor to lose. So I'm telling you guys the honest truth. Like, don't tell me, I'm not being biased at all. I picked McGregor to lose, and I'm telling you he won. I'm telling you I was wrong, but he won by a hair. Round 4 was such a tight round. It could have been a draw. It could have been a Diaz fight. It all depends how you tabulate the score. How you see fights. What do you see as more effective? But this is one of those fights. This is one of those fights. That's why I break down these fights, because I love to talk about these fights that I'm really excited about. And the fights that I'm excited about are the fights that I have no idea what's going to happen. I can predict a thousand fights that I know. Like, obviously, this guy has 10 different tools that are superior. Those fights are easy to call. These are the hard to call fights. These are the fights to call where we know on fight night it's going to be a seesaw battle. I don't think this one is going to be a one-sided fight. Now, if you guys want to know what my pick is, I'm picking RDA. Now, I'm picking RDA. Brace yourselves now. I'm picking RDA 60-40. Now, I know I said they're 50-50 fights. I think RDA has a lot of the same similar assets as Ferguson, but I think he's superior technically. I think he has a sharper technique. I think he's superior defensively. I think he has the superior experience against opponents. So I'm picking RDA. It's a very close fight. It's going to be a tough fight, but I think RDA at one point is going to take off, and he's going to shine, and he's going to win this fight. But again, the crazy offensive abilities of Tony Ferguson, it wouldn't surprise me if he wins the fight. Now, 60-40 doesn't mean Tony Ferguson has no chance of winning. I think he has a 40% chance of winning, which is still reasonably quite high. So this one is from Dinosaur Boy, excuse me. Dinosaur Boy 2005. Do you think Rafael beats Eddie and Khabib in a rematch? Also, do you think he gets his belt back? That's a tough one to call. That's a really tough one to call. Right now, I think Khabib's gonna get. I think Khabib's gonna go on a win streak. To be honest with you guys, I really think he has the offensive skill, the pressure. He's just got it all. He's got the experience. He's just he's already beat RDA. RDA's gotten better since then. RDA's had some great performance since then, and Khabib's been injured and out of the game for a while. It's a tough one to call. I mean, those three guys, any one of them could win. Those are really tough fights to call. I mean, those are fights that are just, man, those are very hard to call fights. I mean, they're neck and neck, all these three guys. It's very hard to call. This one's from I'm Hungry 4444. Dos Anjos has more credentials as a BJJ player, but I feel Tony's aggressive and erratic grappling style is more effective for martial arts in a fight. If the fight hits the ground, who has the advantage? I agree with you that RDA has more BJJ credentials. I agree with you that Tony's style is really good for MMA. If it hits the ground, I would give the advantage to RDA. Like, if it was a grappling match, I would give the advantage to the RDA. In MMA, I would also give the advantage to RDA because I find that Tony is a little bit reckless, and he gives up position. And Dos Anjos is going to be fishing for position from right when they hit the ground. He's going to be looking for that traditional, old school, established position mentality. And if you give them an inch, they get it. So I think Tony Ferguson is going to give him more than an inch. Like I said, oftentimes when you grapple with MMA guys, they give you very different reactions. But when you grapple with a guy like Dos Anjos, who's got that IBJJF background, I mean that I don't want to say IBJJF background, but that traditional positional jiu-jitsu, you cannot be sloppy. You cannot give them an inch. You could do that with like a MMA grappler, yes, but not with a hardcore, highly skilled positional grappler. It's not gonna work. That's just been my experience. Tom Swiss, who has the best chance of gaining the next title shot? Winner of RDA versus Tony or Khabib versus Michael Johnson? I think it's going to be Khabib versus Michael Johnson because of it would be a new face. Now, we all know that Khabib has been really enraged that he didn't get a title shot. And he deserves it. I mean, he deserves it. He beat RDA. He's, I think, 22-0 now. I mean, his performance has just been amazing. He deserves a title shot. He's just been injured. I understand the UFC's position on that as well. But if he gets a big win against Michael Johnson, if he gets a big win there, I don't see any reason why he doesn't get a shot at the title. We've seen RDA get a shot at the title. We've seen him be champion. I think Khabib should get a turn. The only other possibility is if Michael Johnson wins big, of course, or Tony wins big. But I think if Khabib wins big, it's been a long time coming. Michael Johnson, of course, as well, but he dropped one fight. He lost to Nate Diaz, so it's a little bit harder to argue for him, even though I think he's, of course, championship material. And I think he will be in a title fight very shortly. In 2017, I think Michael Johnson will be in a title fight probably. Tony Ferguson as well. But I'm not betting that I'm not thinking he's getting past RDA. If he gets past RDA in a Tony Ferguson fashion, it's very possible that they call his name. It wouldn't surprise me either. Next one here is from DS Give. DS Give asks, how do you think RDA will go about dealing with the unorthodox footwork and unpredictable strikes of Tony Ferguson? Also, both are very aggressive pressure fighters. Who do you think has the better footwork and pressure to control the octagon and pace of the fight? And finally, RDA has some of the hardest kicks in the division. How do you think Tony will go about dealing with the kicks of RDA? That's a very good point. We've kind of touched on those other questions you said. Actually, I think we answered them pretty much, except the footwork one. But you bring up a really interesting point about RDA's kicks. His kicks are devastating. We saw what he did to what he did to Cowboy, and he's landed some powerful kicks. He landed a very powerful kick against on Eddie, but Eddie took it. I don't know how much of a body kick Ferguson can take. If you guys have never been body kicked by a real hardcore Thai kicker, it is devastating. It is incredibly, ferociously devastating. One great example is Pettis versus Ben Henderson. He kicked Ben Henderson 2-3 times in the body in their UFC fight. And Benson Henderson took him down immediately after. And I'm imagining it was because of those body kicks. They were so painful. They were so damaging that he had to get the fight to the ground. And then we all know Pettis got the armbar and won the fight. But those kind of kicks, they take a cardio machine and make him have to wrestle. Like Benson Henderson is also a cardio machine, like we all know. I think if Tony gets hit, that's why I'm picking RDA. It's because these kind of things, RDA's got those tools. And that good body kick from RDA can turn Ferguson into a wrestler. And if he starts to shoot the legs of RDA, I think he's going to get stuffed and then he's going to get controlled. RDA will get to his back. He'll snap him down. He'll do what we call a go behind, put the hooks in, control the rounds, dominate him positionally, and maybe even get a sub, but at least positionally. That's what I'm expecting from RDA. This one is from Haru Glory. My prediction, and I hope RDA KTFOs this cockroach so bad. This was quite a popular comment. Thank you, Haru Glory. You really want to see Tony Ferguson get KO'd. I think a lot of people, for some reason, also do. He said a lot of things in the past I think that a lot of people didn't like, so it was quite an upvoted comment. Thank you for sending that in. This one is from GP. Dos Anjos has put titanium in his jaw. He has put titanium in his jaw after it broke. Does that help in not getting knocked out? Can that break an opponent's hand? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I mean, he's been punched in the chin so many times after that. Nobody's ever had a hand broken that I know, and nobody's ever said, hey, I punched him in the chin and I hurt my hand. in their post-fight interviews with RDA, so I don't think it's a factor. Can you get knocked out? Well, he just got TKO'd recently, so I don't think it has to do with actual bone structure. I think it has to do more with the jaw. You know, when you hit the jaw, it spins your head because it's the end of the lever of your face, of your head. And when you spin your head like that, when you get hit and spins your head, it speeds up the brain, slams the brain in the side of your head. Nobody knows for sure. That's just a working theory. You know, that's just my crazy working theory. They don't exactly know 100% what turns off the lights, but they assume it's the shaking of the brain and the brain slamming up against the side of the inside of your skull. That's what turns the light off. But again, there's a lot of mystery onto why people fall unconscious when they get hit. Ahmad El Hamar, Salam Faraz, do you think Tony Ferguson can pressure RDA into his game plan like he did with Barboza? Or should he take a different approach and get the W? Big fan of yours, Faraz. Keep the great work. Keep up the great work and say hi to GSP for me. Thank you very much, Ahmad, and really appreciate your comment. Can he pressure RDA like he did Barboza? I don't think so. I think he will. I don't think he has any other approach. That's what's given him the great success. I think it's going to be fireworks for quite a while. You know, it's going to be a lot of fireworks. They both have great cardio. They're both going to come forward. But I think RDA is going to get that double. I think that double leg is hard to stop. And when you're rushing forward, it's very hard to stop because he's just going to penetrate through and he's going to grab those legs and lift you off your feet. And I think he gets past the Darce. Now, what makes me say he's going to get past the Darce? To get past the Darce, you have to be able to explode through the legs. Okay, you got to give me a Jordan Burroughs type of double. If you have a double leg that kind of like, you know, you shoot, but your penetration only goes a foot or two, and then you start to kind of fall to your hands like what Barboza did, that's a recipe for disaster. You're going to get caught in the Darce. You will get caught in the Darce. If you don't have the penetration step, if you don't have that penetration power, you shouldn't be shooting doubles like that. You know, it's just too dangerous to give up your neck. But Dos Anjos has proved that he has that penetration power. He has that ability to penetrate past the legs. You know, he's got a good double leg, a Jordan Burroughs type double leg, a GSP type double leg. And not everybody has that pop, that drive. Not everybody has that leap, that explosion. And I think RDA does. And I think that when you have that kind of double leg, you can get past through the danger zone, which there's just a particular range where the Darce is very dangerous. I think you can explode right through that, and you don't find yourself in the Darce. You find yourself in the legs and in side control on top. I think RDA has the power. I'm not 100% sure. We'll have to see on fight night, but I think he's got the power in his legs. And I think that forward pressure is just going to get Ferguson put on his back. This one's from Mohammed G. If you had to bet on RDA, considering his striking is more lethal and crisp than Tony Ferguson, and he's a world-class grappler with multiple degrees in BJJ and aggressive technical wrestling. Lastly, that titanium jaw. Well, actually, you know, I just kind of answered that. His style is more crisp. It is more calculated. You know, it's basically exactly everything I've been saying, and I just don't think this is an easy fight. I think it's a very dangerous fight. Particularly because of the frantic pace and the power punching ability. You know, he's got incredible power. Ferguson has got incredible power, and those long arms of his are very dangerous for the Darce. He's got to have a killer Darce. I believe in RDA. I think RDA is gonna get past all that. I don't see it as a safe fight. You know, this is a highly volatile fight, very dangerous. All right, guys, we're very close to the end of this episode. Just a few more. El Kakui, the last of the Mohicans. What a fighter, a real exciting fighter. El Kakui by choke. This is from EEEG, big El Kakui fan. A lot of you guys out there are big El Kakui fans. Thank you for that comment. Awesome work. This one's from Paul Evans. Does Dos Anjos' head look swollen from HGH to you? And is he as explosive and resilient as he used to be pre-USADA? Does his head look swollen to me? I don't know. I'd have to look at previous pictures from the past. You know, I don't know. Honestly, never noticed anything. I've seen him in person, and I remember thinking, you know, his bones look so thick. You know, like his feet are so thick. But yeah, I don't know. Hard to tell. You know, maybe one of you guys will pull up pictures from the past and compare them. I don't recall seeing him and thinking he has a giant head. Is he as explosive and as resilient as he used to be before USADA? Well, yeah, I would say yeah. You know, he's as explosive, as powerful, as high paced. I would say he is. You know, so I think he's still got that power and explosion. This one is from Rafum. Rafum asks, "Hi Faraz, what do you think? What do you think? I see this fight similarly to Cerrone versus RDA fight. Ferguson can strike and grapple, but he gets hit and and visibly can be hurt. Um, when Ferguson gets hit, we have seen him. He can and does get rocked and hurt, sometimes very badly. I think this is a terrible matchup for Ferguson. RDA will catch him with something hard. He catches everybody with something hard. Eddie could take that shot and keep coming. Ferguson will get hit hard, get hurt, and RDA will finish him. Thanks for all your great videos." Well, thank you, Mr. Rafum. I really appreciate those comments. You know, you kind of took the words out of my mouth. Ferguson is not as good defensively as RDA. I think they're both going to hit each other. I think they both hit hard. I think RDA is better defensively. He is better defensively. And you're right, we have seen Ferguson get hit hard. We have seen him go down, slip on the mat. You know, I love how the way his mind works. You know, for him, that never happened. But he keeps coming back for more. And you're right, he does get hit hard. He does get hurt. But we could also say, you know, the Ferguson fans are going to jump on you and say, hey, Eddie hit him hard, and look what happened. And it's not, it wouldn't be wrong. I mean, that's some good evidence there. Eddie Alvarez did hit him hard, and he did stop RDA. You're right, Eddie can take a shot. Can Ferguson take a shot? Absolutely. I mean, he took it, you know. So don't forget, you know, Eddie Alvarez took a shot and came back. And Al Kakui, I think, could do the same. He could take a shot and come back. I don't think this is out of the realm of possibility, you know. I don't think it's a bad matchup for Tony Ferguson. This is a very fair matchup. This is a very, very difficult fight. The only reason I'm really putting RDA, I'm picking RDA is because I think he's defensively superior. I think offensively they're both very dangerous. Their grappling is, I give a slight advantage to RDA because of the positional understanding, the positional superiority. But again, Tony's a dangerous guy, so I won't count him out. Blacklist, Tony via first round bum rush knockout trying to copy Eddie. Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me if he jumps on RDA the first, before even the bell rings. I think he'll jump on RDA. This one is from Richard Roderick. I think I'm going to make this the last one, guys. Great matchup. I was just wondering if Tony will be able to eat shots just like he did against Barboza. Dos Anjos is less technical, but he actually has more power than Barboza. I don't know if he has more power than Barboza. Maybe. But I'll tell you one thing. I think he has more cardio than Barboza. And I think that was Barboza's undoing. Because if you watch that fight again, I just watched it today, actually, before doing this breakdown. He tagged Ferguson quite a bit. You know, he won the round. I give him round one. I give Barboza round one because of the crisp landed, the well landed shots. But he was swinging for the fences and he was making himself tired. I don't think Dos Anjos is. Maybe he's not as technical as Barboza. I might agree with you there, but I don't think he hits less hard. I don't think so. Or did you say? Oh, sorry, you said the RDA hits harder. Yeah, maybe. I could agree with you there. I could agree with you. You know, he's landed some hard shots, and especially against Pettis. He landed some really devastating shots. And Cerrone, he's a hard hitter, man. He does look like a really, really hard hitter. And I agree with you. He will be. He will not gas out. You know, actually, no, you didn't mention that. That was me. I don't think RDA gasses out. It's going to be a crazy pace fight, but I don't think either one guy gasses out unless he gets tagged. You're going to have to tag these guys. And that's a different. We know when your cardio drops from a shot, it's not a cardiovascular issue. If you get hit on the chin hard or you get hit in the liver, it's your nervous system shutting down. It's your nervous system going into, it's rebooting, you know, so to speak. It just as a way of speaking. You just get buzzed. Your whole body gets buzzed. It's not a cardiovascular issue. Now, if you know, you can be in great. What I mean by that is if you're in great shape and you get hit on the chin, man, your computer slows down. You look gassed. You're on wobbly legs. You weaken. Nobody knows really the physics behind it, but it's just by observation. We've seen guys who are in great shape. You know, they look fresh in the fight, and then all of a sudden they get tagged and they look like they're drunk and they look gassed out and tired. I've seen that so many times. So if one of them were to get gassed, it's maybe have something to do with the altitude. Again, there's another crazy factor we gotta factor in: the altitude. This is a Mexico fight. Don't forget, high altitude. But these guys are in phenomenal shape. Probably the two most fit guys in the lightweight division. These are probably the two most. I just thought of that. These are probably the two most fit guys. Okay, guys, I have to wrap this up. I'm gonna do one last one. This one is from Miguel Arola Ferguson by Darce choke late in third round, only in the fourth after a bloody battle, or early in the fourth after a bloody battle. Yep, a lot of Tony Ferguson fans believe he's gonna win this in the Darce, and they should. He's won with the Darce many times. He's an expert Darce guy. He's got those long arms. Very possible, but I think if he's gonna Darce a guy like RDA, he must hurt him first. RDA knows how to get out of the Darce. He's good at getting out of the Darce. I've never trained with RDA. I've never rolled with him. I've never attempted to put him in the Darce, but Darce, the level of jiu-jitsu guys that he's rolling with, RDA, he's seen the Darce a million times, and they've figured out 1,000 ways to get out of Darce. It could still happen, guys. I really believe in Tony Ferguson's Darce. I think it's a great Darce. I just think RDA has that edge in jiu-jitsu. Again, could be wrong. A Darce can happen, especially with the guy who has those long, long arms. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap it up. That's the end of this episode. I have a special treat for you guys at the end of this video. You guys, I owe GSP 250 push-ups. I had a pectoral injury, clavicle injury, and then after I was nursing that, I had a horrible case of bronchitis. I was sick for over a month. I got it from one of my fighters. Had a fight booked. He got sick. I got sick. The whole gym got sick, and I was on a pump spray. I'm still on the pump spray. A horrible bronchitis. It was hell. I was sick for well over a month. So I am back in the gym now. I am back filming. I will have more episodes for you guys coming up on a regular basis. As always, I'm turning more videos now. And I also got those 250 push-ups. I won't lie, I was burning. I was burning after like 50, 60. I was burning. But I marched through and enjoy them, guys. They're coming up right now. Thank you very much for all the likes, shares, and comments. Keep liking, sharing, and comment, and we will get more content out to you. And I will all see you in the next episode. Thank you.